Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletopped. And we are all here. Well,
except for Rio. What the fuck?
Are, yeah. So Rio's
what are you talking about? I'm right here. Again. We all.
Yeah, he's the spirit of Rio is always with us.
That's true.
We can't wait to get Rio back on the pod. His scheduling lately has been crazy, but he sends everybody his regards. Now, today, I am joined by two of the most incomparable GMs in the biz. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
We're very different.
Oh, it's me, Franco. Yeah, you can't compare us.
You can't compare us.
Wait, you can contrast us.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
which is a type of comparing, right?
And isn't contrasting just comparing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, my name's Bob. I mean, Shade.
Shade, Franco, it's so good to have you guys. And today we're talking about a topic that I've been thinking about a lot because I just had a final session for one of my games that I've been playing.
Oh.
And it was sort of a superhero one where basically there's like a law of the land run by the Order. And they're all like superheroes, like their main guy's like a Superman sort of facsimile. And all of the characters were low-level criminals, and we were kind of seeing how that was going to play out. Final session happened, and there was like a lot of big, meaningful stuff happened, and it was cool, and everyone had a good time, and they were like, yeah, that was a great game. Thank you for running it, all that kind of stuff. But I just felt like at certain moments, I was failing to narrate the cool shit that was happening.
Is you running this game, right? This is you running this game. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's important to point out. You're like, hey, I'm
running this game, and I
like
was failing
dogging
to really
somebody
be
else's
able to narrate to the nature of the final session, and so that got me thinking, like, what makes good narration? We've talked in the past about how to use narration to direct your players' attention to certain items, but this time I want to talk about what is good narration. How do we do it? Are there tips and tricks to do it better? So both of you are, I would say, very well read. You both are related to the publishing industry in some way. And also, both of you have at least like a master's level of, of knowledge of the world and literature and everything. So, in your experience, is there a way to narrate well? What is important in narration to make it compelling and gripping and all the things we want it to be?
Are we that? I guess we're qualified.
I mean, yeah. I also.
You literally today, didn't you? Not today, but this week taught a wonderfully
you can't say
acclaimed
that.
school.
You better.
No.
You gotta bleep that
doxed.
out. You gotta bleep that out.
I'll bleep it. It's fine.
He's been doxed. Man. Yeah, and I mean, I'm with you, Franco. I also was like, I guess
we're
meet sort of those
both taught.
Yeah.
Right? But you've taught before, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna be a guest lecturer at Bleep soon, but for like a hot second.
Listen, I'm sorry that I released personal information.
No, it's okay. It's great.
For a single.
And if you would like to hear Franco's personal information, join the Patreon.
My full Christian name is behind the paywall.
That's right. His phone number is 809-921-2025.
I'm very Googleable. That's what they tell me.
Anyway.
We're both smart. We both read books. We both. I work in publishing. Shade married into it.
I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, we've narrated. So what makes good narration? I mean, there's obviously a lot of directions you can go with this, but I think brevity is important in good narration. You know, and that's very contrary to who I am as a person. I talk a lot, but I think that if you there's a good amount of less is more. You need to paint the picture, but you need to be succinct, and you don't want to over-explain. I love razzing on Tolkien, a wonderful narrator, wonderful world builder. However, I absolutely hated some of Tolkien's narration. because it just said too much. I did not need to know about that many blades of grass. I needed to know there was a field. That's what I needed to know.
Maybe not even that.
Yeah, honestly. So that's like my big tip. But we can dive into that more.
Franco, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a hard agree on that. And I think also it's really hard to do, like, I feel like I have tried to do like sort of, I call it copy, like every time I have to read some, I'm just like I feel like with the current campaign that I'm running, I would say like, okay, hold on guys, I have some copy. And then I would read out what the narration is and just kind of be like, this is what I set up in advance. I have this like problem, and I find this is like a problem that I have in like narration and when I'm teaching, is that I can't just have like keywords on a screen. And this is just a problem that I have. I'm not trying to say like people should do it this way, because I think it's best if you have like keywords to latch onto and then expand on versus having like something fully scripted out. But I often work better when things are fully scripted out, and then because I know exactly what to say next, because otherwise if I have like just a couple of things to hit, then I will probably forget things or say things in a weird order or like whatever. But again, that's just like a me thing. Versus if I'm just like talking off the cuff, or if I'm reading directly from a script, that has been easier. But I have since stopped using like what I call copy, just like pre-written narration, box text. I mean, I told Nick earlier when we were talking about like box text is a big example of this like narration thing, where like the typically 5e modules, right? Yeah, will like tell you to halt for a moment and use this box and read it out loud to your players. And I think it's such a I don't think I've ever had box text read to me and been like, yeah, this is like great literature. I don't know, like it's like never really like it's like, because also like I've used box text when running modules too, and I've just been like I have to rephrase this in a certain way because like the context is different or something, and I'll have to like kind of halt in the middle. So I feel like that's why kind of like using keywords and stuff when you have like a more tersely written adventure or something like that.
Do you feel like
better?
Do you feel like the box text, the reason you feel that way is that it's just like a tonal shift? Like there's two basically writers' voices, and so you're kind of like putting
that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and then you're just kind of slapping another on the top kind of thing. Yeah.
I think it's a huge part of it.
I would say it's not even, even if it's the same author, what you're doing, because I love and hate box text personally. I love that, hey, there's this, it's a little bit of narration, I'm going to read it. It can kind of set some tones. It is kind of a, okay, we need to focus.
It's good at the top.
Yeah, it's great at the top. I love it at the top. But it can, even if you wrote it, sound different, because what I'm doing in a moment can be very different from what I'm reading. I mean, it's kind of the difference between, this isn't quite right, but acting and improv, right? Yeah. Acting's going off a script, and you can riff in acting, you can kind of make it your own, but if you are doing the play, for example, Macbeth, I'm a theater guy, I said the play, not really, but anyway, if you're doing that, you're probably not going to change the text. You're going to make it your own. You're going to give the tomorrow speech in your way, but you're saying tomorrow and tomorrow, you're saying it verbatim.
This is, sorry, Shade, do you mind if I jump in for a second? Because this is really bringing up like for me, it kind of feels like there's almost two separate types of narration. There is the type that is sort of like functional narration, which is very much where box text can come in. And also for me, what it feels like if it was like a point and click adventure, it's like you stop and you're like, you read this thing and then you make a decision at the end of the thing. A lot of, PBTA games and stuff is like, what do you do? And then you resolve whatever the narration was said. But then there's also sort of like tonal, sort of like emotional text or like more like written text that is descriptive and a little bit more like hosting, like you said with a show. It's like if you're the MC, you kind of want to keep it brief but keep it potent, if that makes sense.
Do you think do you mean sort of like when people are like some box text or just like any kind of like pre-written narration, I guess we can call it, is like can be kind of like, hey, I'm kind of telling you what the vibe is right now, like I'm presenting like emotional or like physical things versus being like, this is a room, it has this, it has that, it has, it's got cobwebs in the corner, but then like being like editorializing, right? Like you're like, there are cobwebs in the corner, long abandoned, and no one's this long neglected room, like using like charged language in order to be poetic, but then you have like you're sort of trying to elicit a response from the audience, which is the player. And
I think that a perfect example of this, exactly what you're saying, is combat narration. When you're describing how something takes a blow, or you're basically resolving whatever role or mechanic that you have for combat, and you are doing that through narration. But it's like sort of a split of like, do you want to try to, like you said, kind of indicate to your player how they should be feeling, of like, you swing your mace, it misses the goblin and they're able to drive their spear into your shoulder. You feel a numbing cold start going through your shoulder, which could all just be, fluff. Like this is like,
it's pretty physical though, at least.
Yeah, pretty physical. Or
it's not really telling you what to feel.
Yeah, exactly. But then it also can be text that's just like, you are not unable to hit the goblin, and the goblin is able to strike you, dealing X amount of damage. You can also do it a little bit more factually, and I think what Shade was saying when it comes to be more brief, more let's just keep it moving kind of thing. Would you say that that's correct, Shade? Or
I don't know if I would put it for combat necessarily, but it's the general idea, right? So you don't want to, like, every blow shouldn't have 30 seconds of narration. It's it grazes you narrowly, take this much damage. That's plenty. Whereas you could say the goblin slices and then it menaces at you, sneering, and there's like all this extra stuff, and that's a lot. I can imagine that the goblin's probably pretty happy that it hit me.
I've been in a game before. This was like a one shot that I played kind of recently, but I've been in a game before where the DM like described basically every attack roll. Like every time that an attack roll was rolled, he had like this, like kind of, I don't know, like bucket of phrases to kind of describe it, and also like to like describe like and then they're like whatever, and it does it this way or whatever, like sort of describing it every blow like that.
He's using his left hand this time.
A little bit, but like,
did that make you feel more immersed? Did you think that it felt like better in any way, or was it just like, oh, I'm noticing this because this is just like unlike everything I've ever sat it through,
Nick, I gotta tell you, me, I did not like this.
I mean, that was a for the audience question.
It was. No, I did not like it. I think it was a bit much. I think it was overly explaining this like narrative thing. I think it's like it tries to like this method, especially when using it in combat. I think when using it in combat, it's usually the wrong call unless you're kind of like talking about significant hits or something like that. Like sometimes like sometimes it can be cool to kind of describe it or whatever. But I think when you're maybe doing like, more kind of just like describing an NPC, describing how they look at you, describing like whatever. But I mean, I think maybe Nick, what I'm interested in too is when you talked about it at the top, like me and Shade have been in a game of yours where there was a lot of narration. And there was a lot of like setups and then like endings and stuff. And then I imagine you like worked really hard on like writing like these sort of like prose pieces, right? Where you're like, I want to like wrap this up in a certain way because of the type of game that it is. It's like a very narrative game. Whereas what I did at the end of Argot was we just rolled 2d6 and I improvised whatever happened to you. and then that's like sort of different. It's like kind of giving an impressionistic view of like what happened, because we kind of like collaborate on and decide what the epilogue is together. But do you think how did you run it with it was the Mnemosiny game, right?
Yeah,
the superhero game.
Yeah. So with them, I didn't do as much, though I did, I think I edited quite heavily, whereas we would have 3 hours to play and I would stop us at like 2 hours, 15 minutes because like the perfect button had happened. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, this is where this is stopping because narratively, story arc wise, this is the perfect place to stop the game. So in that way, I would say I would always end on a narrative point and be able to sort of give, a
and
10
this game
second...
Sorry, I just want to make sure we understand that this game that you were playing was definitely like, would you call this a story game, Mnemosiny?
Yeah, I would say that all of the mechanics are in place to adjudicate storytelling decisions. Yeah. So gotcha. Yes, I would say it is very much a narrative game, not sort of
Gamist.
Skirmish. Yeah. But yeah, so I would say when I was doing that kind of game, and the game you're talking about, Lakewood, was also in a very narrative system as well. So I'll talk about for Mnemosiny. Like I said, I would just end it at things that I was like, this is perfect. I can do a quick 10-second, like someone, for example, someone chose to go through this door in a kind of spooky SCP style museum, and they saw this like glowing light at the end of the plinth, and I was like, so what do you do? Are you gonna like go up and do this thing, or are you gonna turn around and leave? And she mentioned she was going to go up and touch the light. And so then I narrated from there what happened and like what was happening in the room, and then her getting kicked out to her friends. And then I was like, okay, and then we're done. So there are those kind of narrative choices. In Lakewood, since Monster of the Week is so styled off of TV show stuff, I always would write out a end of credits and then a before or previously on kind of thing. Yeah. Or like an indicator of what that week's mystery was going to be. And those ones I felt a lot cleaner writing out, because there was nothing you guys could really do that would make what the person, what the big bad was doing that I was giving us a glimpse at, that was happening 100 miles away. Like there's nothing in the game that you probably would do that would change that in any way. So I could kind of just write those out. And so that felt like a little bit of a cheat where I could use box text a little better.
Yeah. And I mean, in that game too, I remember there were various instances of you saying things like the camera zooms out, we go here, you know, now you can see this and stuff like that. So it's like really explicitly a game about narrative.
Yeah.
Versus it being like we're kind of doing a simulation and we're improvising things off the cuff, which is a little bit more like a gamist style type of, like more common D&D type of way to play. I mean, like 5e really like skirts the line. It really depends on like how people run it as well, but it often leans away from being something where like big sweeping narrations are helpful. I don't know why, because I feel like with Lakewood it felt like it worked better, and I haven't often been in D&D games, I think, where there's a lot of like big narration at the top.
I think, well,
I don't know how much you do, Shade, because I feel like it's not, I feel like you don't do a ton, but you definitely do some.
Yeah, I think it really, so part of the problem is I think the games that you've specifically been in, Franco, and much as I would love to say that that my games can do this, I also have to acknowledge the reality of, we're busy people. I'm a serious workaholic, and I don't always work.
It's addicted to workahol.
I am.
Workahol. Fan workahol.
But anyway, I so I'm not always as available for my games as I would like to be. And as a result, I tend to have a very, one session is combat. The next session is, kind of resolving some stuff. And usually we will spend an entire year in a few days span. So I don't think that we have that narration ability at least in Waterdeep. In other games that I have run, I mean, you know, it really kind of depends on the style of the game, the focus of the game. So
can I interrupt for a second? Because I think that this is, I had never thought about this before, but yeah, you're right. I think that the reason why there's not a whole lot is in Waterdeep specifically is because the time scale in these games is like almost 1-to-1.
No, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people's, even their grand narrative games. Mm-hmm. So like if I've run a D&D game that takes place over a massive, you know, story of epic consequences and all that stuff, I probably still have a little bit more of a, it's less episodic. It is really more, you are going day to day to day to day to day. And what you need for that narration is contrary as it might seem, is that episodic nature. It needs to be serial in its episodic nature, but you need to be able to have those clear endings of this thing is happening, you have done this thing, now this thing is setting up. It's just you just kind of need it. You can narrate stuff in the more day-to-day scenario. You know, you narrate the surroundings, you narrate you monologue. I mean, you know, it's you do this here and there. Yeah. But
the thing there too, I think that for me, the times that I struggle most is when I'm improvising that day-to-day narration too, where it's like you walk into a tavern that they just made up as we were walking down the road. And then it's like, okay, so we're going into the Barn and Whistle, and then I just start describing something. It's like that is very sort of just off the cuff usually, and I feel like that's where I struggle the most, because it's like my GPU is being taxed. It's like, oh my god, too much power.
So, and
the RAM.
So that's interesting.
I thought you were an improviser.
I am. But if you do that 100 times in a night, you're like, oh my god.
But this is where I was trying to say that sometimes less is more here, because you know, I could describe everything about the Barn Whistle. Absolutely. I could also just say that you come across an inn along your travels. It looks a little run down. You see that the fading sign above the door says the Barn and Whistle. As you enter, you're greeted by the smell of a hearty stew, and you see the denizens here are quiet, reserved, kept to themselves. The barkeep acknowledges you quietly across the room. There's low murmurs in the room, but not a lot of raucous noise. There's no bard performing. That's plenty of narration, and that actually, I think, went above and beyond what I really needed to do. That was a lot.
That was a lot. That makes me think that this is and you, like in this scenario, I mean, you've just improvised this, but in this scenario, you were also improvising this in the game.
Yeah.
So and this makes me feel like this bar is quite significant actually now.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too. I was like, I was like,
the bar of requirement.
To hear like, we're gonna find that werewolf or whatever.
Absolutely. There's no bard. There's no bard at this place. Aha! That's the villain. You know,
one's
like
happy here. This is significant.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, that comes from like years of experience of Shade being able to do something like that.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, you laughed, Shade, but I mean, that's like something that people like want to know. How do you get better at that? Like, what do you you kind of figure out there?
You know, and that's the thing, is you are focusing the lens too much in this narration.
Yeah.
But instead, I could have come across, you know, you come across a rather rundown looking inn. It's named the Barn Whistle. It's pretty quiet inside. What would you like to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I would also, the way that I would describe it, well, like, what's the scenario, right? The players are asking, like, is there an inn around here?
Yeah.
And I would say, yes. And it's like, you're in the inn.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what do you want to do at the inn? And then they would say like, oh, I want to order a drink and like kind of ask around. Like, okay, great. 2d6.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you find out this and that information. You're talking to somebody. It's like, oh, what do they look like? It's like, oh, well, you know, like they're like an elf and they're like, you know, really handsome or something like that. And stuff like that, you know, like they have like coppery hair or something. Like if they really, like if they ask me things, I will describe them to them, and it's like sort of as needed. For me, that is how I paint a picture of like something that is completely improvised, because like I think I think it's like Shade was saying, like, move it along, right? Like this is all we need.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like, and the more that we're talking about this, like, I know at the top I was saying, like, we've already talked about how, you know, narration can be used by the GM as a tool to direct gameplay and everything. But it actually kind of is also the opposite as well, where you were saying you don't want every sword hit to be, you know, a 10-second long description. So you can do like what you're talking about, just like let's like efficiently like progress the game, and then it becomes more of that soft skill that maybe you were kind of gesturing toward, Franco, when you were saying that like even that Shade, like it took experience to learn how to sort of improvise like that. It's also maybe something that people build up a sort of ear for, where you say like, the table feels a little bit low when it comes to engagement and story stuff. They're starting to only talk about mechanics or whatever, and like I want to start mixing it back in. Then maybe you can bring in something, or like you can give a splash of narration maybe to re-engage or to you know focus them or whatever you're trying to do. But maybe you can also use it as a currency to engage their different gameplay senses almost. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I think maybe what I meant by what I said about what Shade was saying is that like when you do have to improvise, well, not like improvise a place, but like when you are bringing, when they have found the significant in, like the actual significant in, do you need to write all of that? Like, no, like you can, the details can be like, there's no bard here. Like the thing that Shade may have had written down is like, there's no bard here. It's really quiet. It's dilapidated, and that's it.
Yep.
And it's like, and as the DM, right? Like maybe Shade has written this up somewhere in his notes, and he's able to improvise like that because he's had a lot of experience. But as a DM myself personally, that doesn't really narrate that hard when things happen. It's like I would probably say like, yeah, you come in, it's dilapidated, it's pretty run down, people look pretty dour, and usually you notice that like, you know, there's no bard here. Usually at inns, like there's like music and it's like a little lively. Not here, even though it's like kind of you would expect this to be like a hot night, like it's a Friday night, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like another way of describing it, but you have the same notes, you know?
And also
the same prep.
Something I realized, I'm like, I'm the professional here. I'm bringing the expertise, but it's also delivery of narration too.
Yeah.
Like you can read box text in a way that people are like, this is not significant.
Yeah.
And you can also give the bare bones one that like Shade said earlier, but you say it in a way in which it directs intrigue or interest. So that's always something to think of too. Like if somebody came to me and was like, I have such a hard time with narration, I'm getting no success, I would maybe suggest to like think about how you're giving it, like try to vary tone, like don't monologue, read text because you're afraid of gesturing or like misdirecting the audience. Like try to give it a little bit of something, you know what I mean?
I think those details, right, those are like the little details that you would have written in your prep. Those are the things that you want to highlight. Like those are highlight things, right? Like you don't have to say like, and it like smells like bread in this bakery. Like you don't have to say that. You know, it's like I think describing things that sort of stand out, and then everything else gets filled in by people's experience. Like, I expect there to be the smell of baked bread. Like, you don't have to say that when you go into a bakery.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can flip that a little bit. Like, if you do want to maybe call attention to the fact that, hey, this bakery smells like flip bread, you can... or smells like, baked bread.
Foot bread.
Foot bread. What could this mean? I was very confused for a moment.
Let's go. Yeah, but let's go to Subway, Fantasy Subway, where we get foot bread.
Subway. Did I tell you guys about how I got fired from Subway after 2 weeks?
No.
I was too slow.
Also been fired from. I quit Subway. They weren't paying me.
Oh, okay. Wow. They weren't paying you?
No.
What the fuck?
It was illegal. But anyway.
An illegal Subway?
This episode is sponsored by Subway.
No illegal Subways.
just like that season of Community.
Yeah. But keep going, Shade. Sorry.
Anyway, if you do want to say, you know, call to their minds, hey, yeah, this obvious thing, you need to instead just describe the obvious thing in a different way. It shouldn't be like you walk into a bakery, it smells of bread. You need to say something to the effect of, you walk into the bakery, the aromas of the room immediately set your stomach growling, kind of thing. Because, that'll be enough to make them start thinking about, man, cooked bread does smell so good. And they start kind of thinking about their bakery experiences. I mean, I'm talking about it, I'm hungry.
That presupposes that the characters are hungry. You're inflicting hunger on them.
This is actually something I wanted to touch on, because this was like a rule of thumb that was taught to me via the internet or the podcast or someone.
Probably on this podcast. I think we've talked about this.
Maybe it was on this podcast where, and it might, Rio feels
it's something that, Rio hates this, and I also hate it.
Yeah, so I try to be really careful, but even I find myself slipping it in. And for the audience that might not know what we're talking about, is the idea that in your narration, you basically put on something for the player's character. So like you look around the room, you feel a chill, you get cold, and you remember your dead mom. It's like, well,
or even even like you're scared, or you're telling the characters how they feel.
Right. No, 100%.
I'm hungry.
100%. Obviously, I think that, you want to be mindful of that. I do think there is a difference between, because I've walked in, I don't like seafood. I've walked by seafood and thought, that smells kind of good, and then I'm hungry. I mean, I think there's a small, but you're right. I'm kind of like pushing into I feel like territory.
One way to describe it would be something more like maybe a way to like kind of do both at the same time is like you're like, you walk in and one might feel their stomach rumbling at the smell of this bread if one were so inclined. If one were so inclined to enjoy bread and be hungry.
Geez.
That's one way to narrate.
Yeah, that is a way to do it.
And I just think that this is so hard too, because I find myself like constantly
it's like an invitation.
It's a great invitation.
Or invitation.
Walled gardens provide for a ton of creativity, but I'm just saying, like, because sometimes it's like a processing speed thing of like in the moment improvising, where you're just sort of like, how can I indicate that this room is ghostly and I want to try to evoke memories of like a certain character that they've met or something? How do I put that into a narrative that doesn't directly just say, you think of this or you feel this or whatever?
Actually, there is an easy way for this. And I should have gone there to begin with. It happens in media all the time. It happens in every story you're ever reading or watching on TV. It is the stand-in. And this is where you use your little NPC that's walking around with the group to go, oh my gosh, this reminds me of this thing. I'm hungry, whatever. That's who you put all those things onto.
Scrappy Doo says, wow, smells like Scooby snacks or whatever Scrappy liked.
Narrative stand-ins have their place, especially in a game that is collaborative storytelling and you don't want to impart an emotion onto or something else onto someone, onto one of the players' characters.
Yeah, you're projecting. I was never hungry. I've never been hungry for bread in my life.
That's right.
I don't even like bread.
But also there's a thing to be said too, I think, that like a table will get used to the level of narration that you give and will adapt their play to what you are doing. So if you are not comfortable with giving narration, you're like, I'm just not very good at describing things. Because like something that I've run into is where I will describe a room, especially in systems where there isn't like a more skirmish game level combat system. I will find myself describing a room several times per round because people are like, I can't see this. What are you saying? Like, there's an arched roof. Is it like rough stone? Can I climb on it? And like, it becomes a thing. So like, I think that, like
people forget.
Clarity, have it be, concise when you want for it. Like if you're playing in a game and you're trying to get into it, maybe start just choosing moments to sprinkle some in. But like, I feel like doing it too much is the trap.
When I was in that game that I was describing before where the guy was like explaining blow by blow, I kept tuning out every time he explained a room to us because he would like describe the room like really vividly, and I would be like, I still can't quite picture this room. Like as soon as he was done like talking about the room, I would have been drawing the entire time, like drawing the room, like trying to draw the room, and I'd be like this, and then you'd be like, no, not quite. It's sort of like let me like go back to the text and blah blah blah. And I was like, can you just do it, please? Yeah. Like it was just so, and it was I feel like because of like, yes, like it can, some places can be kind of over described, and I think it's like, it's, I don't know, just give me like a bullet list, you know? It's like, yeah, you notice, this is what you notice immediately. It's sort of like what you notice immediately type of thing. It's like the whole like point and click OSR type of style, right? Where you're like, you have literally a bulleted list. You go in, you describe it. It's like, I want to look fireplace. And it's like, great, you look fireplace. Okay, what do you see? Yeah, you see a skeleton up there. I was like, oh shit, how long has it been dead? And it's like, yeah, you know, you can pull it out, but it's hard to tell just by the feet. It's like, okay, I pull it out. Great, a bunch of dust falls down and in the chimney, and then you see some like, I don't know, dust sprites or something pop out. Roll initiative. I don't know. You know, I think, yeah.
No, I'm just, this is all just getting me thinking about like different aspects, and part of it is too, like, I think that you can maybe do the thing that I've suggested doing this on this podcast when it comes to playing characters, that if you're not super comfortable giving in-world narration, you can always give out-of-world narration and say like, okay, all of your characters come into this room. And then that kind of frees you up to be a little bit more like, you know, what utilitarian, I guess, about it, and be like, remember last night when we saw that like car go by and it had all the crazy decals on it? You see that style of like decal on this wagon or whatever, you know, like you can do that kind of thing, which kind of takes the pressure off about building sort of an unbreakable illusion, you know what I mean? So another way you can maybe do it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
One last thing I want to talk about, and maybe we'll do a longer episode about it later, but it is getting to be October. We always do sort of some horror stuff, talking about horror games and all that kind of stuff. What about games where you're trying to build a really specific vibe? So like atmosphere. And maybe this should be its own episode because it's like a whole thing. But like, I mean, for 10 Candles, it's all about atmosphere, and a lot of that's provided.
It's all about those candles, baby.
Yeah. I mean, so there are a few things that go into that. In my mind, you're going to have conversations at the top about this stuff, about setting that mood with the players, so they're coming in and not thinking, okay, I'm going to play 10 Candles and I'm going to be this goofy character. Nah, I mean, I guess you could, but it's really not going to necessarily play out the way you think it is if you want to.
My character has a lot of catchphrases and they're all filthy.
You know, so setting those expectations with your pre-session 0, whatever. And then I do think that, you know, for narration, it's every time you come to a new scene, effectively, right? And you just need to make sure to use the keywords that are going to matter for that ambiance. You want it to be scary, you need to use all the scary keywords. Again, you don't want to describe how they feel, but you do want to describe you want to impart the dread of the room by highlighting things like, I mean, you know, if I saw a skeleton up a chimney, like Franco was talking about, that begins to tell me a lot.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, though, because I feel like I kind of get what you mean, Nick, and also what you're kind of saying, too, Shade, with like, like if I saw a skeleton in a fireplace, I would freak out.
Yeah, exactly.
But like it's such there's like a sort of like dissonance, right? Because you're playing a game, and so you are kind of like, oh shit, okay, but you're kind of like, oh, my character's an adventurer, they're like a steady hand, and I think there are like horror games that have these type of mechanics where, you know, it's kind of like you see something scary and like something's kind of changed about you now, or something mechanical, right. And that kind of feeds into some kind of narrative thing. You know, whether it's like a sanity thing or whatever, which is, you know, not a great way to describe those things, but but like, you know, it's like what's zero. Yeah, you have a chill score, and once you reach zero chill, you freak out.
I thought you were fucking crash out. Maximum chill. Dude, that guy's awesome.
Dude has zero chill, and then he crashes out. This is my crash out number. Yeah, no, like there are things that, you know, when things start dwindling, then they can get scary, and that's how you kind of like bring mechanics into the fear. But I don't know. I think we've talked about horror stuff before and how it's like kind of hard, and I don't often come to games for that, I guess. Usually. Yeah. It's kind of like, if I want to be scared, then I'll look at my taxes, am I right? Something, I don't know. You get it. You get it. Oh man, something like that.
I think that's a good place to end us for this talk. Yeah, I think on taxes.
So, take a look on my electric bill.
Oh man.
This is what people come to this podcast for hard-hitting, focused discussions.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't have a script for this show. Did you guys?
No, but I think, but honestly,
we gave up on scripts like a year ago, I think.
Yeah, when we did our
more
outlines.
than that at this point.
Yeah, nobody noticed. It's like, didn't you guys used to use scripts? It felt so much more organized before.
It's like, didn't you used to have commercials and an ad break? And it's like, no, shut up.
Didn't they used to be like an hour and a half long?
Yeah. What's going on? But yeah, no, I actually do think it's a good place to stop, because I think that you're right that it just brings us to our other discussions we've had, and I think that they're worth having maybe again sometime. But the idea that, you know, the narration, it really depends on gameplay, it depends on the table, it depends on what you're trying to achieve with your narration, and there's like pluses and negatives to all of these things. Like, I could sit here and be like, just improvise all your narration, and if you get exhausted, then just say some bullshit, it's fine, no one will ever matter. But it actually can get you into some trouble as well if you're narrating an important place in a kind of completely unplanned way. So I get it. But I think that this was very helpful. I hope people got some stuff from that. And if you want to support Tabletop, then you can go to tabletop.com or tabletopppod.com, and we have our contact sheet there. Always can get in touch with us there.
Almost sending people to our rivals.
Yeah, we'll send it to our rivals P.O. box. Or you can always go to patreon.com/tabletop if you want to support us in another way there. All right, everyone. We will see you in 2 weeks for another discussion. All right, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.